Hey everybody, so I'd like to talk to you about lunges today. It's a great leg exercise first and foremost. Has huge scope for in terms of how you perform it and how funky it gets when you get into plyometric ones or multi-directional lunges, etc. Walking lunges, you name it. But it's good to get the groundwork spot on. And so with that in mind, we should start on the ground because that's where a lunge does begin. The physical therapist, holistic health coach Paul Check, describes the lunge as a primal pattern. And what he means by that is, as a movement pattern, it's one of the fundamentals that structures, is the beginning, is the foundation of other movement patterns above it. I.e., you can't throw effectively unless you've got a reasonable lunge pattern. And interestingly, in terms of infant development, so as we go from being ground dwelling, crawling, etc., to then standing and walking, the lunge pattern is critical for that transition. So as a baby, you're kind of, you get up onto your hands and knees, start crawling around. The transition from there is to bring one knee up, okay? And then from this position, I can grab stuff, I can play with stuff, I can hold on to things that might allow me to then come to standing. And so we master both the squat and the lunge before we even master walking or standing. So if as a fully developed adult, I'm still waiting to get all my height, then we should be able to squat and lunge effectively. So it's one of the reasons that you'll see it in a lot of exercise programs. A lot of fitness professionals bang on about squats and lunges because actually it's fundamentally important to how we move on a day-to-day basis. Good squats, good lunges maintains hip mobility, knee mobility, ankle, and the coordination and strength required to actually go about your daily jobs. So the getting a good lunge programmed into the old grey matter is really important. So when we go into this, technically a half kneeling position, which is the beginning of the lunge, or the midpoint of the lunge, depending on where you start your pattern from. The knee that's touching the ground should be approximately halfway between the feet. That's a nice spread of your body weight, and your center of gravity is then in the middle of those 2 points. Posturally, again, we should be over the top. Our center line gravity should bisect through the hip and the knee joint. Okay, so we should never be forward at that point. In this position, we become much more unstable. So if you're performing lunges at the moment and you find yourself having a little bit of a stability challenge, just ask yourself the question, where am I at during my lunge? Posturally speaking. Get the head over the hips, over the knee, and you'll be on a much better pattern. So sometimes this is where we start people, figuring out where to place that knee joint. Get the knee and the foot in the right position. They can have a quick look, they can check it. You can go back to ground, and literally you can just drill these kind of positions and postures. On the training leg, ideally you are on the toe. So you either need a very flexible shoe or you need to go barefoot. Some people can't get into this position because of tension in the calf. So they automatically shift to a flat foot because the calf won't facilitate that position. But again, here we can drill that safely, okay? So get used to the right stride, the right position, and just keeping the posture each and every time. So you might find that when you switch, you automatically lean forward. At this point, you just bring it back in. And obviously now from here, then we can stand. If we need to hold something, we can hold something, but the push should come equally from both limbs. It shouldn't just be driven from the front leg. So we'd like to avoid too much lean forward to come up. Because again, our centre of gravity then is travelling too far forward. It makes it tricky to deal with. So we want to come off both legs as much as possible. So conventionally, you'll see people exercising where they step into it and drop down. That's doable by all means, but it is challenging because obviously all of your body weight is travelling forwards. So as you step and stop, the body wants to throw that forwards. So you've got to be really mindful of your posture so that your centre of gravity is in a good place. You've got to be mindful of the distance that you're stepping so that when you do drop down to the ground, then that knee is, again, approximately halfway between both feet. And then you can push back up, nice and tall, good posture throughout. So again, if you find yourself stepping, travelling too far forwards, the knee is travelling too far forwards over the foot, and as you can see, I'm not halfway between in this position because I allow my weight to travel forwards. So it's more of a step, stop, and drop. So it's a good step, stop, make sure you're stable, drop down through the back leg. And I check, and that's a much better position. I was able to keep control of the posture. Then we can come up and push back. We can go alternate leg, whichever you like. Now the forward step does place quite a lot of forces through the lead leg. So it's actually, neurologically it's a little bit different, but stepping backwards and coming down is much easier on this front knee. So if you get any kind of knee pain or discomfort, then the back lunge is a good place to start. Again, you want to check the distance and that this knee is halfway between the feet each and every time that you perform the movement. Again, you're trying desperately to program the grey matter so that, in the gym environment, in your training environment, every repetition is perfect. Then in the real world, if you happen to need that lunge because you trip or whatever, then the brain, the nervous system is much more likely to recruit a clean pattern rather than an untidy pattern, therefore protecting yourself from potential injury or damage. Again, you can use sticks for a little bit of support if you're not quite there yet. This isn't cheating, it's just descending the pattern so that it's a little easier. Sticks, dowel rods are perfect because they move, so it's not a solid object. So for the back lunge, you could stand pretty much in line with the pole, step, stride, down we come, and back up again. So I can just have this here as a little level of security whilst performing that lunge pattern. Equally, if I was going to step into it, you're going to want to be away from the pole so that as you step and come down, then again it's a clean pattern and then the pole is kind of pretty much vertical in this down position. Step back and away. You can use two poles, one pole, depends where you are in your lunge pattern. Once you are very, very confident that you're nailing that technique and form each and every time, then you can maybe start moving to things which are a little bit more progressive, so multi-directional lunges, hitting different lunge patterns, plyometric lunges, where you're jumping in and out of the position, switching legs, which are great, really, really good. But if you don't have that kind of foundational pattern actually really in place and programmed in kind of hard and fast, you're likely to hit problems. So get practicing, make sure your technique is absolutely bang on. You're doing your best to train the software. Don't drain the body out. If you do, lots of really good repetitions, but you're getting tired and fatigued and your final repetition is kind of sloppy, literally that's how you're programming your nervous system. You're inputting really good data, And then the last bit of data that goes in is a bit nasty. When you go back to that exercise the next time, the next workout, your nervous system is still not clear on what you're asking it to do. So just make sure that every repetition is good. So I normally like to leave 1 or 2 repetitions actually in the tank. So as I'm going through my rep range, I'll be asking myself, can I do another one with really good form? Or can I do another 2 with really good form, depending on the loads and the intensities that we're working with. And you always want to keep something in the tank. Don't go to fatigue whilst you're really trying to get these exercises perfect. Give it a go. It's a great leg exercise and arguably a full body workout. It'll really challenge you cardiovascularly as well as the muscular system. So yeah, give that a go. Keep yourself hydrated, be nice to yourselves, have a bit of fun with it as well. And yeah, until next time.